Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ramos. We have breaking news right now. Thank you so much for streaming with us. There has been a major development in the search for Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie. The Pima County Sheriff's Department, with assistance from the FBI, has detained an individual for questioning in connection with the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. A law enforcement official briefed on the investigation has shared that news with ABC News. And according to a source, the individual was detained in a location south of Tucson, and law enforcement is preparing to search a location associated with that individual. Now, the development followed the first images released of a masked man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door, and as investigators continued to search in her neighborhood. All of this coming after the FBI today released chilling surveillance video of a subject outside her front door just before she was taken from her home. The subject appearing in that entranceway. You can see him right there, slowly walking toward the front door. His face covered by a ski mask, wearing gloves and carrying a backpack. Authorities say he was armed with a gun in his waistband. The man moving toward the camera, appearing to use one of his gloved hands to cover the camera lens, while his other hand then seems to tamper with the device as well. He can then be seen moving back toward the walkway in front of the house, where he can be seen reaching down, grabbing some loose brush there. And in the video shows him, you can see him carrying it back to the front door, where he tries to obscure the camera lens, trying to cover up that Nest Cam. Nancy Guthrie was last seen 10 days ago, Saturday, January 31st, when her family took her back home just before 10 p.m. It's not clear when these new images released by the FBI were recorded by that front door camera, but investigators say the doorbell camera was then disconnected at 1:47 early Sunday morning. And about 40 minutes later, Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker app disconnected from her phone. Investigators say DNA tests confirmed the spots of blood found at that front door were Nancy Guthrie's. Throughout this painful ordeal, Savannah Guthrie has appealed for the return of her mother, including, again today, the family holding out hope that their mother is still alive. I want to bring in ABC's senior investigative reporter, Aaron Kotursky, who is joining us now with these breaking developments there in Tucson. And Aaron, you broke this news just a few minutes ago. What can you tell us about what is happening right now?
A law enforcement official briefed on the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, Steph, told ABC News an individual was detained south of Tucson in connection with Guthrie's apparent abduction and disappearance. Law enforcement officials obtained a search warrant and will be searching a location associated with this individual. For now, the individual is only detained. It's not clear whether this individual is going eventually to be called a suspect or a person of interest, or whether the individual has anything to do with the images that we all saw that were released earlier today. But law enforcement officials, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, with the assistance of the FBI, taking this individual, detained the individual for questioning and an eventual search in connection with Guthrie's disappearance.
And Aaron, as you know, it's been hours since the FBI released those images and the video of this individual seen there at Nancy Guthrie's house, that person seen masked. What do you make of this latest development just a few hours since these images were released?
Well, it's not clear, Steph, again, whether this is related, whether the individual detained, whether law enforcement officials believe it's the individual depicted in the video. We just do not know yet. But the authorities were hoping that people around the country, not just in and around Tucson, would take a look at the images, because these are the first pieces of evidence that the public has a chance to actually recognize. Would it be the person's eyes, his gait, his height, his weight, his stoop, his backpack, the way he was trying to tamper with the camera? Did that jog anyone's memory? And you heard Savannah Guthrie, as she posted those images on her Instagram page, to say, someone's got to know something, please take a look. And so these images are key for investigators to have. They're not easy to get because they were probably already deleted automatically. With the assistance of the private sector, the FBI was able to get them after they were previously unavailable and release them today, Steph.
Absolutely. Aaron, thank you so much for your reporting and this update. Again, for our viewers, a person has been detained in connection with Nancy Guthrie and that abduction. We're joined now by ABC contributor and former FBI profiler Brad Garrett. Brad, thank you for joining us tonight. This newly released video showing, as you saw, that armed individual at Nancy Guthrie's Tucson home. This was a big break for investigators. Kind of break it down for us. Explain how this could have helped investigators in the last few hours.
So there's a wealth of information, both, I think, behaviorally and also physically. Aaron talked a fair amount about the physical part, that somebody who knows this individual may recognize his eyes. It looks like he might have facial hair under his mask. And he's in front of this camera for quite some time. One of the amazing things, Stephanie, is he was out there so long, and it seemed to be disoriented, disorganized, and not being able to sort of figure out what he was going to do next. And then he goes and rips up a plant and takes it back and does something with it in front of the camera. But because he did all of that, you're able to see his movements, how he walks, how he's built, what type of clothes that he wears. He's got a backpack on that looks like there's either reflective tape and or small lights that are hooked to the straps of his backpack. That may give the investigators some leads. The backpack itself, you may be able to identify a brand. Those are long shots, but they may be able to come up with something. And because of the way he moves around, people who know of him or know him when they recognize his walk. So it's a combination of all of those things that I think may have led, if this person of interest is the guy in the video, then obviously this has worked. It's a type of crime that people are going to want to report, and I think once they were released this afternoon, you can see that they've at least looked at one person of interest within a few hours. So I feel optimistic where this is going. And in reality, they are detaining him as they're doing a search. Obviously, if they find items, evidence, etc. at this residence, then they'll end up arresting him.
And Brad, based on these images and the surveillance, the video that was released, you touched on the items that the individual is wearing and how that could help investigators. But from what you see here, can you tell if this individual is experienced in crime or is more of an amateur? And again, we do want to note that the person that has been detained in connection with this abduction, police have not confirmed that it is this individual that is in this video here. But what are your thoughts, Brad? Does this look like someone who knows what they're doing?
Absolutely not. And his whole demeanor is sort of like he's not really sure what he's doing. Now, obviously, you can see a gun in his waistband. You can see, who knows what's in the backpack. And that just the amount of time he spent in the front of this house and the way he was moving around, it's almost like a combination of that, yes, he is an amateur, but my sense would be, what is he driven? I mean, it's going to go to motive. If the guy in the picture is the one who abducted Nancy, then there is some psychological connection to this crime. Maybe money has nothing to do with it, and we'll see where this sorts out. But it has so many bizarre aspects to it. It doesn't work or doesn't go together at all like a traditional kidnapping, where somebody's abducted, the family or the victims are contacted some way. We want money. If you give us money, we'll give you back your loved one. There was none of that, even in those email notes. But if you look at this guy, I'd be shocked that that's what his motive was. There's clearly another motive for him as to why he went into Nancy's house.
And Brad, based on your experience, when you learned these images had been released, did you expect a development like this, just a mere hours after the release of those images?
Yes, because of the type of crime it is, and because it's in such intensity, obviously in Tucson, but this case has like captured the world. And after watching this guy, he didn't drive in from, Northern California probably to commit this crime. He lives there. And I think Aaron said he lives south of Tucson, so he doesn't live in that neighborhood, but he doesn't live that far away, which would fit as far as I'm concerned. But again, what is the fascination with Nancy, or is his fascination with somebody else? I mean, people might guess it would be Savannah because she's so well known, and millions of people see her every day on the Today Show. But I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting how this breaks down as to motive, why he did that, and why he spent so much time in the house. I've never heard of an abduction where you spend 45 minutes. The whole idea of abducting somebody is to get out of there as quickly as possible. And then, of course, the troubling blood at the front door. It is just not a good sign.
No, not at all. Certainly so many questions surrounding this. Brad, I want to thank you for your time and for your insights since this case first broke. Thank you so much. We're now joined by retired FBI agent and ABC News contributor Richard Frankel. Richard, thank you so much for joining us. The state authorities have detained a person for questioning in the Nancy Guthrie case. FBI Director Kash Patel also said that they've made substantial progress in this case. How big of a role do you think releasing those images and videos today played in moving this investigation forward?
Yeah, as Brad and Aaron said, and I think you even commented that we're not really sure that the person who's detained was connected to the release of the videos. But just our thought is, or my thought is, that they received a lot of leads based upon that that release of the video. To be quite frank, I got calls here in New York from people saying, "Hey, could it be this person? Could it be that person?" And I'm sure, in the command post or operations center, they were receiving a lot of these same calls. And, what you do with that then is you go out and you investigate each one. You have analysts do a quick rundown on who the person is, and then you have investigators go out. And if there's more to it, then you actually then send out a team to detain the person. So it's very possible, and I would even say maybe probable, that there was some connection between the person who is being detained and what was released today, but we just don't know yet. And as we go forward, I'm hoping also that law enforcement is not just focused on this person and that house, because there are other leads. You don't want to just put all your eggs in that one basket and go in that direction until you know for a fact that he is the abductor and that where Nancy is. Until that happens, you have to run down each and every lead and not take your eye off the goal.
And what kind of information or evidence do authorities need to detain someone for questioning?
Well, you need something to show that there is a possibility. It doesn't have to be a probability, but a possibility that this person is in fact connected to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. It doesn't mean he's the abductor. It could be somebody who supported the abduction. But you need some type of evidence more than just a casual indication that he was connected. When we used to go out on these cases connected to terrorism, we would get a lot of leads that were just, oh, I think this guy did it, or I think that guy did it. That's not enough. You need something more specific to say that this person is in fact connected. So it's either a description of the person. It's something that only law enforcement knows, but you've described about the person, or it's some other indicators that would give specificity to the reason why this person is in fact connected to the crime. But again, as you also reported, they're only saying this is a detained person. They haven't even said a person of interest yet. So I think they're going along those levels to make sure that they don't overstep their authorities.
Right, still very much in the early stages. And we know that law enforcement and the Guthrie family, they've been asking for the public's help in all of this. Nancy Guthrie was abducted 10 days ago. How rare is it for a case like this to go on for more than a week?
Well, actually, in my opinion, it is actually very. It happens more often than not that it would go on long. The first 24, 48 hours is very important, and that's what you always hear on TV, and that's where you will get most likely the most amount of recoveries of the individuals, both alive and passed away. But a lot of these cases, and I'm sure Brad's worked them, I've worked them, they'll go on for months and even for years until you get good information showing that the person was in fact abducted, taken to a certain place, and abducted by a certain person. So 10 days is not bad in the case of all of the cases that we've ever investigated. However, the goal is to get out there, within minutes, within hours of an abduction, and get the full weight of law enforcement investigating that case. Having the locals who know the area and have those sources in the area, the feds who can come in with the technical resources and the additional manpower to assist local law enforcement. You want all of that on the scene, looking at the case as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Every minute counts. Richard, thank you so much for your time. Retired FBI agent and ABC News contributor Richard Frankel. Also tonight, we have late news that a grand jury in Washington, D.C. has failed to indict 6 members of Congress who made a video last fall telling service members and members of the intelligence community to refuse illegal orders. It's a serious loss for U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, who has failed of late in other indictments. The members who posted the video were Senators Elisa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, and Representatives Maggie Goodlander, Jason Crown, Chrissy Houlihan, and Chris Delizio. Senator Slotkin of Michigan said in part on X a short time ago, Pirro did this at the direction of President Trump, who said repeatedly that I should be investigated, arrested, and hanged for sedition. And today wasn't just an embarrassing day for the administration. It was another sad day for our country. We do have breaking news to report tonight. Evidence has been released to the public in the case of a woman shot by a Customs and Border Protection agent 5 times in Chicago. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago released the footage a short time ago. Our team is going through the materials at this hour, and we, of course, will bring you the updates as we have them. The footage does not show Miramar Martinez getting shot. Charles Exum, the agent who fired the shots, was not wearing his body camera at the time, but Martinez's attorney says audio of the gunfire will be audible in some of the videos. Martinez was shot 5 times last fall during Operation Midway Blitz. In November, charges brought against Martinez were dismissed. She had been accused of participating in an ambush of CBP agents by allegedly ramming them with her car. Coming up here on Prime, we're learning that pop superstar Britney Spears has sold her music catalog. We'll have the details. Plus, caught in the middle, a library that sits on the U.S. Canada border faces entry restrictions. Our Elizabeth Schulze investigates the impact it's having on the community.
What kind of reaction have you gotten from patrons?
A lot of people were angry at the beginning. But our message was really, let's rise above all this. We can find solution, and it's going to be better.
And the 1,400-pound animal saved from a storm drain. That story coming up. Welcome back. The bubbling feud between the U.S. and Canada is back in the headlines today as President Trump threatens to block the opening of a new bridge that connects the countries until Washington is, quote, fully compensated by our northern neighbors. Prime Minister Mark Carney saying today he had a positive conversation with President Trump, adding that Canada paid for the structure. The bridge is just the latest landmark to get caught in the crossfire, similar to a library quietly straddling the northern border. It's a symbol of good faith faith and strong relations that's now being used as a flashpoint over immigration, tariffs, and national identity. Our Elizabeth Schulze traveled to that library for tonight's Prime Focus.
In the quaint township of Derby Line, Vermont, daily life is entwined with Canada. The Canadian town of Stansted in Quebec is just steps across the border.
Water flows from Stansted to Derby Line. We use that for our residents, and then we send it back to Canada to the sewer plant that we actually co-own.
We couldn't separate ourselves if we wanted to.
You're stuck. You're stuck together.
Sarah Webster is Derby Line's top official. Jody Stone is mayor of Stansted.
It used to be that you would just walk across the border and wave or, check in briefly and they would know you by name. Geographically, it's a border, but for the community, it's almost non-existent.
A border so non-existent that this library, the Haskell Library and Opera House, straddles it. Inside, the library's president, Sylvie Boudreau, shows us how a line of black tape faded along the floor is all that separates the U.S. from Canada.
We've crossed over into Canada.
Into Canada.
As we sit here, you're sitting in Canada, I'm sitting in the U.S. That seems to show just how much this library symbolizes the close ties with the U.S. and Canada.
Yes, exactly. And like I like to say, inside, no one feels like you are from the U.S. or you are from Canada. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are all one group of people coming here for the same reasons.
The library was built more than 120 years ago, the vision of a wealthy heiress, Martha Stewart Haskell, establishing a meeting place for Americans and Canadians to exchange books and ideas and to attend opera shows. In the past, Canadians would walk down an open sidewalk to the main entrance, located on the U.S. side, without having to use a passport. But last March, the United States announced that would change. All Canadians looking to enter the library would have to go to a nearby U.S. border crossing. Trump administration officials claimed the library's open-door policy had led to drug smuggling and illegal immigration.
The Department of Homeland Security says there were more than 140 apprehensions tied to illicit activity just around this library in 2024.
I do think that the library ends up caught in the middle naturally because of its placement.
Federal data shows less than 1% of fentanyl seized at the U.S. border entered through Canada in 2024 and 2025.
Right there over those rocks.
Yeah, it's United States.
Sylvie worked for the Canadian Border Service for 2 decades before her job now. She says she understands the concerns over open borders.
It feels like no one's watching us right now.
No,
that's not
like
true.
But says the library itself isn't the problem.
Hidden camera there. There's another one on the post. There's another one on the post that we don't see from here, but there's another one there.
So from where we are right now, there are literally at least 5 cameras watching us from U.S. Border Patrol and Canada.
Yep.
The seamless ties between the U.S. and Canada that have defined this library and community for more than a century are now under threat. Tensions have boiled over as President Trump escalates his trade war with America's second biggest trading partner.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries.
Despite a landmark trade agreement with Canada and Mexico struck under his first term, the president has now hiked tariffs on many Canadian goods to 35% and has targeted industries like lumber, steel, and autos. In January, Trump threatened an additional 100% tariff on Canadian imports.
What about American residents here? Are they feeling the effects of these tariffs in any ways?
Of course we are. We're seeing increases in pretty near everything. So we were looking at our road salt budget just the other day, and it's gone up 11% since last year. And it's already a hefty budget for us because we do get so much snow and winter weather in Vermont. We'll have to make adjustments and cut other items.
In October, the president abruptly cut off trade talks with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. angry over this ad paid for by the Canadian province of Ontario.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition.
It used the words of former President Ronald Reagan.
America's jobs and growth are at stake,
Describing how tariffs cause higher prices and job losses. The Reagan Foundation came out with a statement saying the ad misrepresents the former president's address, Trump writing on social media that it's fake. And the president has not shied away from this threat.
Frankly, Canada should be the 51st state.
Last year, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem made a surprise visit to the Haskell Library.
And when she said this could be the 51st state?
Yeah, everyone was stunned. Everyone was surprised. Everyone was shocked. Shocked. Being Canadian, we are nice, so no one said anything.
For now, an emergency exit allows Canadians to access the library through a small storage room.
The library was not designed to have a separate entrance for the U.S. and for Canada.
No, it was not the intention.
What kind of reaction have you gotten from patrons?
A lot of people were angry at the beginning. But our message was really, let's rise above all this. We can find solution, and it's going to be better.
The library has quietly begun construction of a new door with an entrance in Canada set to open in May. It's a costly project that includes a new sidewalk with a price tag of more than $500,000. They've raised more than $200,000 through a GoFundMe page, plus a $50,000 donation from longtime patron and famous crime fiction author Louise Penny.
When you turn your sights on a little local library that is meant to be a symbol of the friendship between our nations, that's just pathetic.
Louise joins many Canadians actively boycotting American products. Travel by Canadians into the U.S. has plunged more than 30% in the past year. The storied author canceled the American leg of her new book tour.
Is this anti-American or pro-Canadian?
Oh, it's definitely pro-Canadian. It is the administration that is the target of our disappointment and our ire, not the American people.
Canadians have this global reputation for being nice.
And we are.
Still, has that changed in the last
I think
9
we are
months?
being nicer than perhaps others might have been. Canada has never looked for a fight. It's rarely started a fight, but it never backs down from a fight.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is keeping the door open to trade talks with the U.S. while also pursuing other trade relationships with countries like China. In a searing speech at this year's World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Carney warned of a rupture in the world order.
And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality. We must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious.
Prime Minister Mark Carney said the traditional relationship between the U.S. and Canada is over. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that, but traditions can change. So I feel that, we talk about it 10 years from now, it might be a good turning point, and we might be even in a better relationship than we were in the past.
How symbolic is it that they closed a door? A door! The Trump administration closed a door, and what was the response? We opened another one. And we'll keep opening them until you stop.
Our thanks to Elizabeth Schulze and the team for that in-depth report. Coming up here on Prime, with the midterms looming, President Trump is pushing a new bill that could block millions of Americans from voting. And what led to this wild brawl between players at an NBA game? We'll have those details next. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. There's been a big break in the case of Savannah Guthrie's missing mother. FBI Director Kash Patel releasing images of an armed individual in connection with the disappearance. The new images show the individual with what looks like a sweatshirt, backpack, gloves, and a mask. Savannah Guthrie again posting on Instagram saying, quote, "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home." And ABC News has confirmed Britney Spears has sold her share of her extensive music catalog. TMZ says the sale was made final just before the new year and that the deal was with Primary Wave, that's a music publisher. And finally, checking in on Team USA's Olympic medal count, the team has 7 so far. 2 of them gold. 1 was brought home by Breezy Johnson in women's downhill skiing and the other in the figure skating team event. Team USA is 4th overall in the medal count with Norway so far in 1st. Coming up, bipartisan polling groups in the U.S. agree voter fraud here is practically non-existent. So why are Republicans and President Trump pushing a bill that could make it harder for Americans to vote? And the success of Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show measured in toilet bowl flushes. Yes, that's right. We'll explain. Stay with us. Welcome back. With the midterm elections looming and President Trump's renewed focus on the results of the 2020 election, House Democrats and Republicans debated today over the sweeping GOP voting bills Congress is set to consider in the coming weeks. President Trump, in particular, has pushed for the SAVE Act, the bill that would require states to obtain proof of citizenship before registering to vote for a federal election. Let's take a look at what the SAVE Act is by the numbers. The 4 options under this bill to prove citizenship would include a real ID compliant ID showing citizenship, a passport, a military ID with proof of U.S. birth, and a government-issued photo ID showing U.S. birth. The Brennan Center estimates that more than 21 million Americans lack easy access to those documents. And according to the State Department, roughly 51% of Americans have passports and millions lack access to a paper copy of their birth certificate. Brennan Center data also shows that voters of color would suffer disproportionately. 11% of Americans of color don't have citizenship documents readily available. That number is just over 8% for white American citizens. And at least 3.8 million people don't have these documents at all, often because they were lost, destroyed, or stolen. This bill is raising concerns and a lot of questions as people get ready to head to the polls for this year's midterm elections. With more on this, I want to bring in Sean Morales Doyle. He's the director of the Brennan Center for Justice, Voting Rights and Elections program. Thank you so much for joining us here in studio tonight, Sean. A lot of folks may say, you've probably heard this, if you have your documents and there's no problem, it's too easy, just have your documents handy, but it's not that easy. What are some of your concerns when it comes to the SAVE Act?
Well, the reality is that there are millions of American citizens that don't have ready access to these documents. In fact, our research shows that it's about 21 million American citizens that don't either have a passport or a birth certificate handy. Only about half of Americans have a passport at all. And then on top of that, there are people who might have one of these documents, for instance, a birth certificate, but it doesn't match the name on their driver's license because maybe they've changed their name since they were born, and they're going to have to complete additional steps to get registered as well.
And that would definitely affect people, and when it comes to voting. And there was a hearing that was held today. I want to read what one Democratic representative said today, Julie Johnson of Texas. She brought that up, the issue of having a different name. She says, what if your married name does not match your birth certificate? So how could these requirements affect those individuals when they want to go and vote, but their documents are showing they're not matching up when it comes to the name?
Well, it's going to mean that they have to clear additional hurdles to demonstrate that the name on their on their birth certificate is their former name. And when you put those kinds of hurdles into effect, especially in the middle of an election year, I think that is going to compound the negative effects of this law. It's going to cause chaos. But that's just the sort of extra chaos on top of the baseline, which is that millions of Americans will just be blocked from voting outright because they don't have these documents handy.
And we've heard President Trump defend the act, saying we need fair elections. We need elections where people aren't able to cheat. We've heard this before. Is that a valid concern?
Obviously, it's valid to be concerned about people cheating, but no, it is not a widespread problem that we have. The reality is that states already have multiple systems in place to ensure that only eligible citizens are voting in our elections. And every time anybody, whether it's the Brennan Center or President Trump's commission in his first term has looked into this issue, they have found that non-citizens casting ballots in our elections is a vanishingly rare phenomenon. It's not something that justifies passing legislation that would block millions of Americans from participating in our elections. I mean, 21 million Americans that lack ready access to these documents is more than the entire eligible voting population in the state of Texas. It's a huge percentage of our electorate.
And we've heard from so many people on Capitol Hill, one representative saying the rate of voter fraud is almost non-existent compared to ballots cast. So yes, there's that concern, but is it a real problem? Many are saying it's not.
Yeah, it's not. We have systems in place to stop fraud, to catch it, to prosecute it, and whatever tiny, vanishingly, infinitesimally rare rate of fraud there is, it just cannot possibly justify disenfranchising 21 million people.
Many implications if the SAVE Act does pass. Thank you so much for your time, Sean. Appreciate you coming in. Sean Morales-Doyle from the Brennan Center. Coming up here on Prime, it may not feel like it outside, but MLB spring training is here. It's right around the corner. We'll have the details about how the players are preparing. And pop singer Madison Beer joins us next to dish on her new album. Forget football. It's time now for baseball as spring training gets underway. What flat holiday retail sales in December says about our economy. And New York City gauges the popularity of Bad Bunny's halftime show based on how many toilets might have been flushed afterwards. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. A brawl last night between the Detroit Pistons and Charlotte Hornets led to the ejection of 4 players. Charlotte's Moussa Diabate and Miles Bridges and Detroit's Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart were tossed after a third quarter fight. The scuffle started following a foul on Duren that quickly escalated with punches thrown and many players needing to be restrained. Police also briefly appeared on the court. Hornets coach Charles Lee was then ejected in the fourth quarter, and he too had to be restrained from going after an official while arguing a call. Detroit went on to win the game 110-104. MLB spring training is officially underway. 6 teams today had pitchers and catchers report to camps in Arizona and Florida. Full squad workouts will be in full swing by early next week, with the first games to be played February 20th. This year's camps will also help teams prepare for the 2026 World Baseball Classic, with exhibition games beginning in early March. The official opening day this year is March 26th. That is the earliest ever in MLB history. A 1,400-pound manatee is safe after a rescue in Florida. Crews from Brevard County and even SeaWorld spent more than 6 hours carefully freeing the animal from a storm drain. Worried it wouldn't survive, teams used a tow truck to lift it out. Officials say the manatee is now recovering. Shoppers unexpectedly paused their spending at the end of 2025. New data from the Commerce Department shows retail sales were flat in December compared to November, surprising economists who had expected growth. The Commerce Department says concerns over slow job growth, tariffs, and rising costs may have weighed on consumer spending, especially for those with middle and lower incomes. Analysts say weakening consumer confidence could signal even more cautious spending ahead. A pregnant woman was saved from a sinking car after she crashed into a pond along an interstate in southeast Florida. Authorities say Shedley Apollon became dizzy while driving and lost control of her vehicle. A Good Samaritan stuck in traffic then dove into the water and swam to the car, helping Apollon escape.
Feeling her breath come in and out and having her hands touch me and feeling her heartbeat, it was surreal.
Hours after the crash on her own 29th birthday, Apollon gave birth to a baby girl by emergency C-section. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show had New Yorkers, and likely people all across the world, pausing their bathroom breaks. New York City's Department of Environmental Protection says water use dropped across all 5 boroughs during his performance. But in the 15 minutes after his performance, water usage surged to the equivalent of more than 760,000 toilets flushing all at the same time. We're not done with Bad Bunny news. Oh no, just a short time ago, Nielsen released the Super Bowl 60 viewership numbers showing it was the second most watched Super Bowl of all time and set an all-time media record with more than 137 million viewers watching at the game's peak. Bad Bunny's halftime show was the most consumed halftime show ever on NFL social platforms with more than 4 billion views in just 24 hours. In her latest offering, Madison Beer is pulling back the curtain, giving listeners a closer look at a softer side laced with introspective longing without losing moments of pure pop fun. Last month, Madison released her third studio album, Lock It. The album reached Billboard's top 10, helping her stake her claim in the pop world. Our Roxy Diaz sat down with the 26-year-old to talk about this new chapter and to reflect back on the journey that brought her to today in tonight's Prime Playlist.
Can't believe it ends this way. Thought you'd always stay.
Soft but powerful, introspective and honest. Vulnerability woven into melody.
Wanted to be with you. Wanted to make it through.
It's been a slow burn to the top for platinum-selling singer-songwriter Madison Beer, who is bringing uncompromising authenticity to her third studio album, Lock It, long-turning emotion into pop perfection.
I know I should be bitter, but baby, right now I'm bittersweet.
Born and raised in Long Island, New York, Madison Beer's career began at home in a makeshift studio with a camera and a microphone.
My love has come along.
At just 13 years old, Madison uploaded a cover of Etta James' hit, At Last. When you posted that YouTube video, what were you thinking? And what was your family thinking when you're like, oh, I'm going to just do this for fun and see where it goes?
I'm very thankful to have a great mom and dad. My dad, quite literally every single day, from as early as I can remember, would videotape me singing. My mom took me to all my singing lessons. With the YouTube video, they kind of just were like, do your thing.
The cover caught the attention of pop superstar Justin Bieber, who reshared the video and catapulted Madison into the spotlight overnight. It's the moment that launched the career. And with her 2013 debut single, Melodies, she emerged as a force in pop. Beer followed her early career success with her debut 2018 EP, As She Pleases, featuring the single, Dead.
If you say you can't live without me, then why aren't you dead yet?
That marked a turning point in your career. What did you feel during that project and, coming out for the first time and just steering your own sound?
I just wanted to make a little EP. I had been, at this point, I think I had already been dropped from my label, so I was like, I'm gonna just do this as I please, and that's why I named it As She Pleases.
Beer's debut album, Life Support, came in 2021, featuring the single Effortlessly, which landed her a spot on the Billboard 200.
So I hold my breath to breathe. Hurt me so I feel. Used to do these things so effortlessly.
And then you have Life Support, which was your first baby.
Yeah.
And you say that, so that was a very vulnerable album for you as well. Take me back to that time and what made it so vulnerable.
There's songs like Effortlessly or Stay Numb and Carry On, where I honestly was in like a pretty depressive place when I made that album, and I like to be as real as I can be and share with my fans and my audience and whoever's listening what I'm going through, and at that time that was really what I was going through.
Her second studio album, Silence Between Songs, dropped in 2023 and earned her first Grammy nomination.
Silence Between Songs was really just me being like, I want to explain these little intricacies about myself.
And then the single, Make You Mine, Grammy nominated in the Best Dance Pop Recording category. Madison later embarked on her global The Spinning Tour in support of Silence Between Songs, which influenced her latest and third studio album, Lock It. You're performing these high, dance pop songs. In the back of your mind, you have Lock It working too.
Yeah.
So explain to me how you were able to go from very, very high to very melodic, which is the sound that Lock It has.
The tour influenced that album so much, and I wouldn't have been able to make Lock It without the experiences that I had on tour and the insight that I was able to gain, like when Make You Mine would come on or when my song Good and Goodbye would come on. I kind of noticed which parts of the show got people the most engaged.
Why Locket?
I loved the name Locket for a really long time. I think that it's very symbolic of a lot of things. I feel like it's feminine, it's dainty, but it also can hold whatever you want in it. And then the more I started making the album and it kind of turned into this heartbreak, emotional fan relationship, self-doubt, like all of these things in one place. I'm like, this is what's in my locket. You know, if I were to have a Madison locket and with all of the things that make up who I am inside of it, I think these songs would all be in there.
Inside Locket is Bittersweet, a song about ending a chapter of love and finding the peace to let go. Also featured on Locket, Yes Baby. Both singles have marked major milestones for Madison, with Yes Baby topping Billboard's U.S. dance radio chart and Bittersweet becoming Beer's fastest top 40 radio entry and Billboard Hot 100 debut. Following their chart-topping success, the songs were performed at the iconic Victoria's Secret fashion show.
Think I have to go, walking all alone. Hate to see it all go down the drain.
Tell me about getting your wings.
When I got mine, they were so beautiful, and it's just something that like I grew up watching and I was such a fan of.
As far as what's next for Madison, a global headlining tour in support of Locket. And what are some of the fun things that are on your vision board?
I got my second cat last year. I love cats so much, so like, who knows, maybe a third. No, I can't do that. But my biggest thing is to just continue to maintain this level of happiness and healthiness regarding my relationship to my artist project and not tethering too much of my self-worth to numbers and charts and sold out tours or Grammys. I think that all those things are cool, but I want to feel happy at the end of the day with or without those things, and to me that's the biggest indicator of true success. And so that is my biggest thing with the biggest pin in it on my board, is just to be happy no matter what happens.
That's a great way to think. We look forward to what's ahead for Madison. Our thanks to Roxy Diaz. And there's our show for this hour. I'm Stephanie Ramos. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for streaming with us.